David Bohline interview, August 26th, 1998. Okay, can you say and spell your name for me?
David Bohline, David Bohline.
Okay. And what was your PIN number?
PIN number 777.
777. What year did you graduate?
I graduated in the 1990.
1990, and you pledged in 1987?
Pledged in 1985, the fall of 1985.
Fall of 1985. So you spent 5 years.
5 years.
Any reason?
It was 4.5, and I stayed because I didn't want to leave.
Really?
I stayed and made up a reason. I got a double major. I could have graduated actually in like 3.5 years.
Huh.
But I liked the school and I liked the house so much that I stayed.
And, okay, so you pledged, obviously, your first semester. What made you choose TKE?
You know, I think I chose TKE because I made a connection with one person in the house. I became a friend with one person in the house, and that person was John Friedland.
And did that friendship carry on over the years?
It did.
At TKE? Did it carry on afterwards?
Yeah, I stay in contact with John Friedland all the time.
Mm-hmm. You were a leader in the house when you were in the house. Did you start leadership early, like in your pledge semester?
No, I think that when I first started my pledge semester, people didn't quite know what to make of me, and I wouldn't say that I was accepted by the house. I don't think that people thought of me as being a future leader.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what the first couple of years were like for you in the house, the way the direction the house was going, and how that made it difficult or easy for you as a member?
Well, when I first joined the house was struggling. We didn't have the amount of numbers that we needed to compete on the row. We had financial problems. I think we suffered a lot from a lack of confidence in ourselves. That's pretty much sums up the first few years of my experience.
Did you guys ever gain that confidence before you got out of there, or?
I think we did. I think that we turned it around and started on the path of improving and turning the house around and establishing the type of fraternity that we have today.
What would you consider the turning point that turned you from the level of confidence that you thought you had before to what the house is today?
Well, I just remember that in the fall of 1997, we took a look at all the things that we had done over the last few years, and we said to ourselves that we didn't win anything. We didn't win Ironman, certainly, but we didn't win any of the sports. We didn't win even a single game. We didn't compete in Songfest. We didn't do anything. And I think that we started off with just establishing that we were going to try to win something, no matter how small it might be, and we went ahead and we did it.
Were athletics big 1985 through 1990?
Athletics were not big in 1985 or 1996 or 1986. We established them with the volleyball program in particular as saying that TKE was going to be good in athletics. But before that, I'd say that we were one of the worst athletic houses on the row when I first joined.
Mm-hmm. When you left as an active, had you improved at all?
We improved a lot. We in my final semester, we finished the fall semester in 3rd place in Ironman, and that was the highest that we had been in years. Mm-hmm. Obviously not the highest that TKE House has ever been, but at the time it meant a lot to us.
Mm-hmm. How close was the house, would you say, in 85? You said you had small numbers. Did that make the house closer, do you think?
You know, the house was close, but we became even closer when we decided in 1987 that the direction we were going to go in was going to be a positive one. And certain people decided that they didn't want to go with the program. And I think it took a really dedicated person to stay with the aggressive and, to be perfectly honest, the personal sacrifice that was needed for people to accomplish the goals that we set. Mm-hmm. Made us really, really close. And I'll tell you, to this day, the late 1980s people have really stuck together. You take a look at any alumni event and you'll see lots of people from 1985 to 1990.
Hmm. Why would you say that? I mean, why do you guys keep in contact with each other and keep together? What's the bond there?
I think we all went through the same experience. It was a very bonding experience of putting everything on the line, risking everything, because we came to the brink of absolute failure. And instead of going over the edge into failure, we accomplished something. And I think everyone feels a really deep self-satisfaction of being a part of something that has turned into a house that today you can only be proud of.
Is that what made you stick around and carry on your role as a chapter advisor and alumni association president?
Absolutely. The reason why I became chapter advisor in the first place is because I felt that my 4.5, 5 years in the Teak House didn't accomplish everything that I wanted to achieve. We weren't as good as I wanted us to be. We didn't realize all the goals that we had set. So I became chapter advisor in a way to have somewhat of an attachment to the success of the house and to help in it and to add to it. And at the same time, while I put in a lot of work and effort, I've been extremely lucky and fortunate to reap a lot of the rewards of a house that has achieved a lot.
Uh-huh. Can you think of some key people who helped achieve from 1990 on, who like key people who really have kind of, pushed Teak along, in your opinion?
I can think of several key people. Probably primarily Matt Bashir. Matt Bashir understood where we had come from, where we were going, and what it took to get there. And more than anyone else, he just fit right into what we were trying to accomplish at Teak. And I have nothing to say except for good things about Matt. He, through the force of his personal will and leadership, took the house forward. Other people, Mark Easterday was a huge force in the house. Justin Wu was an incredibly dedicated person that moved the house forward. All three of those guys had nothing but high expectations for the house, and they did whatever it took to bring the house to the level it is today.
What do you say that says about Teak leadership?
I think what it says is that even one person, through the sheer force of their will and their vision and their idea of what Teak can become, can make a difference. I think it's been proven that no matter how small or how big the house is, it all comes down to the key leader of the time. And I can chart it out ever since I've been involved as to how that one key leader has made a difference.
What about the rest of the fraternity? How do they fit into this? Are they just like soldiers in a game, or do you see them as kind of a collective unit that helps the leader, or as a collective unit that builds more for the collective unit?
Well, I certainly don't want to diminish the rest of the house, because everybody in the house makes a big difference. And it's hard for me to point out. I could point out not just 3 people, I could point out 50 or 60 people that have made a difference in the Teak House in one way or the other. It's when you get a combination of these people together. One assumes a leadership role, one assumes a support role, one assumes an athletic role, one assumes a academic role. It's when you bring all these people together and get them all to focus on the same end that you really accomplish something. And that's what I think Teak has done, is it's grab people from when they were freshmen or even seniors in high school and told them that by joining this organization you're going to make a difference, and your talent is going to be used to make this organization better. And then bringing them in, recruiting them, and letting them go, letting them use their talents to their fullest extent.
Do you, going off that, do you see the house going up in the next 5 years?
I would see the house going up, and if they don't go up, I'm going to be really, really mad, because they have everything going for them, the momentum swinging their way. They're a great group of guys, and yeah, deep down I know that this house will continue to grow and become better and better.
Is there a peak that we're going to reach, do you think, and then go back down?
You know what? I hear that over and over again, that fraternities go through cycles. You go up, you go down, peaks and valleys. I don't believe in it. I believe that that's the way it happens if you don't know where you're going, if you have no vision of what it is you want to accomplish. Inevitably, yeah, you're going to have some people that work hard and you might go up, and once you achieve something, everyone becomes very comfortable with where they are and they don't work anymore, and then you go down. But I think as long as we continue to have the strong alumni support that we have, and the alumni that feel that they didn't accomplish everything, and it's not just me, it's so many people I see now that graduate the house and have had such a great time that they want to give back and they want to see the house accomplish even more. So I really believe it's all in reassessing where the goals are. You know, at the Teak House we always talk about the next level. Everyone's heard that phrase over and over again. Well, the next level is not the ultimate level, it's just the next level. And once we get to that level, you establish what's next.
Even since the beginning of the chapter, Teak has kind of been the underdog, so to speak. It was a smaller house up until probably a year ago. Now we're at an 80-man house. And I think that underdog attitude has kind of given us some motivation to, always improve and whatnot. As the house becomes a bigger house, like it is now, how do we maintain that underdog attitude that keeps us, trying to improve?
Well, I'd like to sum it up with a story. And the story is that you can equate the USC Greek row to the plains of the African jungle. And the way I look at it is there are two types of people. Every morning the gazelle wakes up and it says to itself that it has to be faster than every lion out there or else it's going to die. And every morning, every lion wakes up and it feels that it has to be just fast enough to catch up to the slowest gazelle. But either way, both of them wake up running. And that's the philosophy that we have to have at TKE, is that as we get better, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to want to catch us and take us down. And we have to continue to get up and keep running. There's no cruise control. There's no walking through the motions. It's all about focusing on the goal and continuing to realize that this is a competitive environment and we just have to keep getting better.
When did you decide that you wanted to become a leader in the house, when you were in the house? Because you said you didn't start out with the leadership role and the whole bit.
To be totally honest, I've always wanted to be a leader in everything I've done. And when I joined the Teak House, I desperately wanted to be a leader. The people in the house in the very beginning, didn't want to see me in a leadership role. I don't think anyone can picture me being there. I've always been a little bit eccentric, a little bit different, and I don't know if people saw me as being a leader. I think what it really came down to is that we came to a crisis point, and I stood up and I said, I guarantee you that I will make this house better than it is right now. And I will personally do whatever it takes to make the house better. And I think people believe me. I think that my former experience in the house showed them that I would carry through, and I think that's what gave me my opportunity.
Can you divulge a little bit on the crisis point? What happened during that time?
Well, I'd like to say that it was a crisis of expectations. My pledge class, and a lot of people don't realize this, was 32 members large. This was in 1985. This was a pledge class that I think more than doubled the entire size of the fraternity at that time. Expectations were set sky high. In a matter of 3 or 4 years, people in the house were expecting us to be one of the top fraternities at USC. Unfortunately, the people that put the effort into recruiting a 32-man class sat back and said, we've done all that we can, now it's time for these guys to take over and do what they're going to do. And I think our pledge class let the house down. To be perfectly honest, I think we did. We didn't live up to the expectations. We didn't turn the house around in a matter of 1 or 2 years. We were still struggling. And when it all came crashing down, and people realized that it wasn't going to happen overnight, and it wasn't just going to happen because we recruited a lot of members, a lot of people said, this is never going to happen. If it didn't happen now, it won't ever happen. And a lot of people quit. So I think what the crisis came to is in the fall of 1997, we came back with under 20 active members.
Can you remember any specific stories, old football war stories, or funny anecdotes that kind of would exemplify your stay in Teak, your time there?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that the semester that summed up my experience in Teak the best was the fall of 1998. Excuse me, the fall of 1988.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start over on the whole
Okay.
question. I think the semester that summed up my experience in Teak the most was the fall of 1988, and for two reasons. Number one, it was the first year that we had put together a really, really competitive volleyball team. A volleyball team that could compete with any other house on the row. And every week, every Thursday night, we would go out there to the Ironman volleyball games and take down another large house. We'd take down Sigma Chi, ATO, Delta Tau Delta, and it would be razor close. We'd be behind, then we'd come back at the very end and overcome. And at the same time that was going on, the USC football team was putting together a 10-0 season. And both of us were on the verge of a championship. USC on the verge of a national championship when we were ranked number two in the nation, going up against number one Notre Dame, and TKE being ranked number two going up against SAE. And there's no happy ending to the story because both Teak lost to SAE and USC lost to Notre Dame, and both of our hopes of a championship were crushed. But to me, it was the idea of putting your all into something, believing in something that a lot of people said could never happen, and having it go as far as it could. And while we didn't exactly achieve the goal, it made us all the more hungrier to achieve it later.
Would you say it's been a really tough uphill battle, or just kind of a striving to compete or stay afloat for Teak since 1986?
In retrospect, it's been a lot of fun, but I can say that I've been actively a part of it for quite a long time. And I mean actively a part of it. I've seen it, I've lived it for 10 years plus. But at the time, I think it was a lot of work, and there are a lot of heartaches about it. You know, when you don't win, when you don't achieve what you want to do, it hurts. But in retrospect, I think that everyone would agree that it's been a great ride, and it's only been an exhilarating and rewarding experience.
If you could describe the chapter when you were in it, when you were an active member, if you could describe the chapter in 3 words, what words would you use?
If I could describe the chapter in 3 words when I was in it, I'd say dedicated, loyal, and willing to persevere. I know that's more than 3 words, but I really think that that's what it was.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? I'm out of questions.
All I can say is that to be an alumni of the Teak House at USC is an experience that I only hope more people could be a part of. Because what you're being a part of is the next great fraternity at the University of Southern California. We've seen the past. We know who's been great in the past, and we know that when we were great, truly great back in the very beginning, how great that was. But I see us moving into an era where TKE is going to set the standard, and everything's going in the right direction. The alumni commitment, the alumni involvement, the types of members that we're graduating right now are just incredible to me. What they have going on in their lives and what they're willing to put back into the house is very, very encouraging. So I think time is now to be involved, and you're going to see right around the corner the beginning of a really great era.
Dope.